Hi, girls. Today is Friday, April 24th, and we are beginning a new module today, a new mission with your online math lessons. We are officially at mission 6, lesson 1, and the title of this lesson online is On Point. Our I can statement, I can use metric measure to model the decomposition of one whole into tenths. Take a look at what I have here on my board already. We've seen a lot of these. I have my number line. I have a range of 0 to 1. Now I'm going to decompose my number line, which I'd like you to do as well. And if you need to pause the video in order to do that, do so. So I'm going to decompose mine into tenths. And again, I like to remind you, because 10 is an even number, I start in the middle to the best of my ability, of course. So I'm going to make sure I have tenths. 0, 1, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, 1 whole, or 10 tenths. Now, we have been working a lot with fractions. So first I'm going to take my number line and I'm going to label the fractions. However, I'm going to label the fractions on top of the number line. And I hope you're doing this along with me. And over at my 1 whole, I know that 1 whole is 10 tenths. And even at my 0, I can put 0 tenths if I want to. You have nothing. So here I have all of my tenths. But what we're going to do today is we're going to relate our fraction form to the equivalent decimal form. So I know my fraction for 1/10. I also know that if I were going to write this in decimal form, it would look like this. And they're both read as 1/10. Now, remember, whenever we read numbers, especially at the beginning of the year, I would tell you not to say the word and, because the only time I say the word and is if I have a part. For example, with our fractions, our mixed numbers, we were saying 1 and 1/2 because we had a whole and a part. This decimal point, when I see it in a number, this is when I can say and. So I can read this as 1/10 or 0 and 1/10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to label my number line on the bottom with the equivalent decimals. I already have my 0, 1/10 in decimal form, 2/10 decimal form, 3/10 decimal form, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, or you might also hear people say 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. So each of the fractions is equal to its corresponding decimal. 1/10 is equal to 0.1, but we read both of them as 1/10. 2/10, 2/10. 9/10, 9/10. For each of my fractions, there is a corresponding equal decimal. So you might hear them called decimal fractions because decimals are also representing parts. So now let's take a look at some other types of examples. My first example here is in unit form, 7/10. Now I want you to think, if I have 7/10, how many more do I need to get to the 1 whole? Well, here I am at 7/10. I need 1, 2, 3 more tenths. We've done this previously with fractions. I know if I have 7 of the tenths, 3 more of them is going to give me the whole thing because 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 tenths is 1 whole. Same thing with my decimal form. 7/10, except now I'm going to put it in decimal form, plus 3/10 equals 1 whole. Now what we want to do is relate this to metric measurement. And metric measurement is when we use things like grams for weight, centimeters, meters, kilometers for length, liters, milliliters for volume like liquid. So just reminding you, here I have a measuring tape, and this side has centimeters. So to think about the length of a centimeter, my pointer finger is a little bit wider than a centimeter. So when I'm talking about length, you can kind of see that little line in my finger. You probably have one too. That's about the length of a centimeter. And each of these centimeters is broken into tenths. You can see in between the 1, where you don't see the number 1, it's covered by the metal, but in between the 1 and the 2, there are tenths. In between the 2 and the 3, there are tenths. In between the 3 and the 4, there are, say it, tenths. So I'm going to relate some of those addition problems to 1 whole centimeter. If I have 4/10 of a centimeter, in order to have the whole centimeter, I need 6 more tenths. Fraction form, fraction form. Decimal form, also read 4/10. Again, 4/10 and 6/10 of a centimeter gives me 1 whole centimeter. So when you go to do your problem set today, you're going to see a number line, actually a tape diagram and a number line, where you're going to have to label with fractions and with decimals. Use this to help you. You'll also see some examples like this, where you have to put the missing part in that is needed to make one whole. So good luck with that. We are not going to have a CGI video today because we will be meeting on Zoom, and I can't wait to see all of you. Have a great weekend.